So throughout the reading for chapter 8 through 10, one of the concepts that I actually found the most interesting was, of course, having the idea of VR, virtual reality, and tablets introduced into education. As a future teacher, technology being incorporated into my lessons actually sounds really fun. I know a lot of people struggle to figure out ways that they can tie in some type of technological aspect into their lessons, and really I think it's a game changer, and I think that might be part of the reason why in the beginning of the chapter it was mentioned that there's a shortage of teachers. Most of them that I've talked to, the reason they're getting out of the reason they're getting out of education is the fear of technology taking over. Robots, they're taking our jobs, and technology, it's becoming a teacher. They aren't even going to need us soon. That's what a lot of people's fears are. And while I will admit, technology is playing a much bigger role in our society than it once was, I feel that there are ways that technology and humans can play a side-by-side role and work cooperatively. One of the main reasons is, as one teacher, we can't expect every child to understand everything that we're teaching. We just can't. There's always going to be a couple of students that are going to be struggling. That doesn't necessarily mean that we suck as teachers. What that means, however, is that we need to find ways to make sure that every child is getting an equal opportunity for the best education possible. One way I think we can do this is with technology, of course. So we won't have to worry about John and Susie over there not getting it. We can use these self-guided and these self-pacing lessons and activities and apps that are preloaded on these tablets for good. We can have them work with it and figure out ways that they can understand in ways that we can't. We aren't going to always be able to find a way to explain it to every child in a way that's going to make sense to them. A lot of times we'll go, just ask your friend. Just out of pure frustration. But even that's not going to help them too much. Also, another thing that I came across a lot when I was student teaching was kids ask questions a lot. They're constantly asking questions. Most of them, as a 22-year-old, I don't know the answers to. I haven't had enough education. And even if I had learned it at one point, it's out of my brain. It's still not in here. It might be in there, but it's deep. It's somewhere in my brain that I can't get. Technology is a great way that we can incorporate this. It doesn't look very professional of us to Google questions that we have no idea how to answer it, or that we might not know the answers to. I know one time one of my algebra teachers was Googling a question, and she had it projected on the screen so we could see that she was Googling, and it made a lot of us kind of lose respect for her, because we're like, hello, you're supposed to know this stuff. But now, as a pre-service teacher, I kind of understand where she was coming from, but probably wasn't the best way to approach that. But using the technology and stuff, we can find kid-friendly ways to explain the topics and the concepts. Another thing is that these tablets can make sure that every child is getting free and equal education. They all have the opportunity to learn. And so it wasn't exactly mentioned in the chapter if it needed internet connection. It just mentioned that, they had like solar-powered little stations that they could, charge their tablets. But I'm assuming that they might not. And if they do, that's okay too. But if it doesn't, that's even better, because there are some parts in the world that don't have internet. Or if they do, it's very, very minimal. I know Tanzania is growing in its internet connectivity. I don't have the exact statistics on it. I had to look it up right before this. But yeah. every child would end up having their own, virtual teacher, which is pretty cool. VR technology obviously is playing a much bigger role. When I, got into middle school, I didn't even know what VR technology was. We didn't even really hear about it until high school, which was crazy. Everybody was like, oh, VR. Anyway, VR would be a great way for kids to all have the same experience. I feel like I've talked about that before, like in one of the other blogs for Padlet. But anyway, you don't have to worry about like paying for travel fees, lunch, any other low expenses that could come up with a normal field trip. And a lot of people, I think that'd be a pretty good benefit, because a lot of times, I know at least in my student teaching experience, each grade level had a certain amount of money they could spend. So like as a grade level, they could decide, hey, I think a great expense that we could do are these tablets. It covers our books. We could incorporate VR technology in with it. The kids can learn at their own pace. Like, there's so many benefits. And so you could end up using some of the money in for that. I'm not sure how it works at other schools, but the school I was at was a public school. And so I don't know if that's true for all public school systems, but the one that I was at, that was true. A lot of parents are also worried about like safety. Obviously, when you get on a bus, there's a chance for a wreck. We went on a field trip in one of my other experiences for internships, and we were on the way to a field trip to a zoo that was about an hour away down the mountain, and there was a huge wreck, and it caused us to be about 30 minutes late. So they wouldn't have to worry about that. And there are a lot of incidences of school buses getting in wrecks. Parents wouldn't have to worry about that either. And lastly, of course, there's a bunch of different alternatives for VR, but there's also a lot of inexpensive VR equipment. For example, Google Cardboard. I actually used it, and it's actually pretty cool, and it's very inexpensive. I think it was about $20 when I got it, so I'm sure it's even less now. But even Nintendo Switches, a lot of kids have Nintendos, and I'm sure even some of you teachers do. I know I do. You could actually incorporate your Nintendo by getting Nintendo Lab, or Labo, sorry. But it's actually pretty cool because there's a whole bunch of kits you can use to create different types of software and things. And so not only is it a hands-on learning experience for you as the teacher, it's a hands-on experience for all the kids and whoever else may be in the room with you. So yeah, although technology is playing a much bigger role, I think it's pretty cool.